What's up, guys? Today it is story time. So, somebody posed the question to me, what was the hardest day of your life? And this is a really tough one to answer. But one day always sticks out in particular, and it so happened to be on 420, back when I was a student in my third year, I believe. I was trying to think, was it third year or fourth year? And I'm pretty sure it was third year. So it was April 20th of my third year. And I was on a general surgery rotation, and this rotation was pretty intense. What they would do is for this hospital that we rotated at, they actually didn't have residents there, which gave us a really good training experience, but the students acted basically as residents. And as us third year students were there on that surgery rotation, we would have to do all of the things that a resident would do. But we also had schooling that we were going through. So in my school, in our third year, it was a mix of didactic, meaning like the classwork, and the actual clinical. So the clinical stuff like being at the hospital. And being a resident and performing the actions of a resident is no easy task. You're essentially being the doctor for the patient. You're doing all of the morning rounding, you're checking on the patient throughout the day, doing the orders, and then you're working and doing the surgeries with the attending surgeon. And they made us take 24-hour call, and they actually wanted us to stay at the hospital. I lived about 10, 20 miles away, whatever the distance between Walnut Creek and San Francisco is. And this hospital was in the middle of San Francisco. And their stipulation or whatever was if you were at home, you had to be able to get to the hospital within 30 minutes, I believe. And I thought that I could do that for the most part. So I usually didn't stay at the hospital. This was my third year, and I was super stressed, and it was my weekend for 24-hour call. Actually, it wasn't 24 hours. I was just on call the entire weekend. Like, I had to be at their beck and call and be there immediately when they asked me to. I'll never forget, I was just having a hell of a week. I just had all kinds of stressors. As a student, you just have a ton of stress, and we had, remember that didactic work, and this was finals week. I just got the short straw, and I got put on the call on finals week. I had to study for, I think it was like some tough classes that I absolutely already hated, like immunology, or genetics, neither of which I did good in. I just could not fathom them and never did good. And I was basically always just getting through on the skin of my teeth. It wasn't something like anatomy or biochemistry, which I was pretty decent at. Like genetics and immunology, still have no idea what the hell people are talking about. I know just enough to get by. But I had to study for these finals, and I was super stressed out about it. Just in generally, I was getting to that point where I felt like I was just going to have a breakdown because there was just so much going on. But I've usually been pretty good with my emotions and been able to just tough it through. And I remember it was, I believe, like a Saturday, 420 back then, so April 20th. And I woke up just thinking like, all right, like this has been a really fucked up week. The call has been stressful. I just want to be left alone. It was like, I think I woke up like 6, and I was like, I'm just going to go get a workout in, and then I'll be able to study for my finals, and just fingers crossed I don't get called in, yada, yada. Maybe it wasn't a Saturday. Maybe now that I'm thinking about the surgery that we did, I'm guessing it wasn't a Saturday because it wasn't like an emergency surgery. It was more of an elective. Anyways, whatever the day was, I just wanted a day to rest, like unwind, deload, and study. But right when I got up, like literally it was like seconds after getting up, I got a phone call, and it was a charge nurse calling me in. And I just remember he said something stupid like, put down the bong, you gotta come in. And I was just like, I'm like, I'm not fucking smoking right now, first of all. And god damn it, like it was my day off, I hoped. And I really need to study, but whatever. This one surgeon has a sigmoidectomy, so cutting out the sigmoid section of the colon and reattaching it to the rectum. Should be relatively fast, whatever. I was already pissed. I was really stressed out. I remember trying to get there. Like, remember, I had to be there within 30 minutes or you're like in big shit. When I was trying to get there was like multiple wrecks, and this is Bay Area traffic. And so we were just bumper to bumper. And then I just remember being in the car, being so fucking livid, like punching my steering wheel, just like about to lose it, because this is like 3 years building up to this point. And I'm about to have like my first medical schooling, like breakdown, which a lot of people have probably much earlier than me. And I'd just been holding off, and I was just like raging, so upset, watching that clock get closer and closer to like 30 minutes, knowing that I had to be there. And another key point was, since they called me like the immediate second that I woke up, I wasn't able to have caffeine. And I used to really live on caffeine then. I mean, I still do. I'm still highly addicted to caffeine. But I wasn't able to get my caffeine, and that will come up later in the story. So freaking out in the car, stressed the F out, and then finally get into the hospital, run in. I like get there as a surgeon scrubbing, which is a bad look. As a student or a resident or anything, you should be there probably hours before the attending surgeon to get everything ready. You want to, consent the patient, talk to the patient, help all the nursing staff get the room ready. You want to draw up the local anesthetic. You want to write your name on the board. You want to do every possible thing that you can before the attending surgeon gets there. And I was like sprinting up as the attending surgeon scrubbing, which is already like, fuck. Luckily, she was super cool. And again, since they don't have residents, they were actually always super grateful that they would have a student scrubbing. So I get there. She was decent. She was cool. Scrub in. Again, it's going to be a sigmoidectomy. We're going to do it laparoscopically. So we basically cut a few little holes in the belly, and then you drive in like a camera on one, and then the instrument with like a clip or a blade or a cautery tool or something with the other. As the student, I was responsible for the camera. So again, we're going to go in. I'll be guiding the camera so that she can see. We're looking up on a camera up there. She's doing the work. We were going to, again, relatively easy as far as I know. I'm not a general surgeon, but I believe for most surgeons, it's probably relatively easy surgery. We cut out the sigmoid colon, and then we bring it down and attach it to the rectum, going up through the butthole, the rectum, and attaching it. That was what we were supposed to do. So we get started. I'm driving the camera. As a student too, that's pretty tough to be the one that's driving the camera. You have to, everything is kind of backwards, kind of like playing a video game. I'm not much of a gamer, but you have to be able to learn how the camera works and move it in such a way that you're the surgeon's eyes. And you need to make sure that if they need to see around a corner or something, that you're there before they can ever even want to. You need to anticipate their each and every move. So I'm sitting there standing, and sometimes you get in a weird position, and you're like neck's cramping and just holding it like for hours potentially. We get started pretty early on, maybe honestly only like 40 minutes on. She's using these instruments. One of them is a little clamp, and one of the teeth broke off of the clamp. And we're talking this little metal instrument. It's maybe half an inch or an inch big. It broke off inside the patient and went into the patient's insides. So it's all wrapped around different areas of intestine, and we can't see it. We can't find it anywhere. So for the next, I believe it was literally like 3 to 4 hours, we were digging. She was like freaking out, trying to, pull, look in every crevice quarter. We could not find it. It literally took probably 3 hours of just searching, where I'm driving the camera for her. She's poking and prodding around, lifting up things. It's the craziest thing, because this thing was so teeny, and it was, we eventually found it in a little nook. And that's something you obviously have to get out. You can't leave that in the patient. It's, probably a festering abscess and a lawsuit waiting to happen. Not to mention, like, if she ever got an MRI or something. Geez. So yeah, we just cannot leave that in the patient for multiple reasons, as you can assume. So through that whole ordeal, like 4 hours now, which, going into this, I'm already like on my verge of having a breakdown. Remember I told you I didn't have caffeine. I used to get very, very bad migraines. I don't know why I couldn't remember the name of those. Bad headaches, migraines, like legitimate migraines that would make me kind of black out in a way, like you can't see straight. I would get very like double vision. I would feel nauseated, like I was going to throw up if I even like opened my eyes. And one of those started coming on, and then it came on full-fledged ahead. So we finally get back to the surgery, and we're in there for hours, and there was just complication after complication after complication, all of which I don't even remember at this point, because again, now I have a migraine. I am standing there again, just driving the camera. So we were in that surgery for a total of 13 hours that day. It was absolutely insane. I had one of the worst migraines of my life. I was trying to hold back my vomit because I thought that I was going to throw up due to the migraine. My back was cramping. I was dripping, sweating, and it was awful. Eventually, when we got to the point of the second part of the surgery, where we could finally attach the one part of the colon to the rectum, another surgeon came in and kind of alleviated me, because she was going to be the one that went up through the rectum. So she was going to one side and the other doc was going the other, and then they met and linked the thing. Again, I'm not a general surgeon, so it's kind of foreign to me exactly everything that they were doing. But she was eventually like, "You don't look good. You look super pale. How long you been here, poor guy? Like, go take a break." Oh, I remember I ran out to whatever you call those things that I don't use them very often. What do you call the machines that have like drinks in them? I don't even know. Why can't I think of this? Like a I don't know. Somebody commenting below. What do you call a vending machine? Yeah, I don't really often use vending machines for anything, but they had a vending machine there. They had a Monster in there. I got a Monster. I was asking like every nurse, do you have any ibuprofen, any Tylenol, anything? Somebody eventually had like ibuprofen. I remember chewing it so I could get like a faster release, and I was like, give me as many as you can. It's like pounding the Monster on top of that, and that kind of helped. And then had to go in and help, and then she wanted me, like, I'm a third year student, and I got put on the scene of like, oh, close these holes up. I'm like, fuck, and I had to close. I mean, they're just small little laparoscopic holes, but still, I'm just a student. I haven't really sutured too much at that point, and I'm like shaking, one because I'm like nervous having these two surgeons look at me, and then the rest of the OR staff who also has had to stick it out and been in there that entire time. And at that point, when you're suturing, everyone's just looking at you literally with arms closed, like, can you hurry the F up, because you're the only thing between us and home. So, I'm trying to suture these small little holes, which eventually I did pretty well. But that kind of sticks out as one of the most difficult days of my life. Now, that is pretty small and trivial compared to many people's. It's not like I was off in a war and had my legs blown off and had to, crawl miles in the sand or anything like that. And a lot of people have been through some really hard shit. Potentially I've had harder days, but whenever anyone asks me that question, it's usually one of the days that I think of, because I just remember even starting out the day, I was so angry and so upset, like just wanting to almost cry in the car. Like, why can't I just get an effing break? I finally thought I was going to get a day off because I hadn't had days off in so long. And I just remember starting the day that way, and then it just getting so much worse than it could have ever been, and having to stand for 13 hours sterile with the migraine of my life. Like, that was probably one of the worst days of my life for sure. One of the hardest, definitely. But I am super grateful for those days. Every time that I'm doing something hard, I think back to, what have I done before this that was harder? I got through that. I can definitely get through this. So, although they suck in the moment, embrace the tough days. And that is your story time, and your little words of wisdom on this 420. Now, if you are partaking, which I am not, I guess enjoy, be safe, and I'll try to see you guys soon.